From KQED Public Radio in San Francisco, I'm Michael Krasny. Coming up on Forum in the hour ahead, we talk with author and contrarian Christopher Hitchens about the death of Mrs. Bhutto, the ongoing war in Iraq, and how he assesses the religious stands of candidates who are seeking the presidency of the United States. Forum is next with your calls and emails after this. From KQED Public Radio in San Francisco, I'm Michael Krasny. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of this morning's Forum. Author, editor, journalist, literary critic, contrarian, polemicist, former Trotskyite, and atheist. Christopher Hitchens is joining us for this Forum hour. His most recent book is God is Not Great, and he's also done a book called The Portable Atheist. God is Not Great is subtitled How Religion Spoils Everything. So these are the two books in the zeitgeist right now of Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins, all names ending in S, someone pointed out, who are becoming spokespeople for or missionaries about atheism. He's contributing editor for Vanity Fair and The Atlantic Monthly, a regular contributor to many magazines. And while we had him in town, I thought we'd talk with him about the presidential race and the role of religion in it. But some other things to talk about first. Welcome, first of all.
Hey, nice to be back. By the way, Daniel Dennett, who's number 4 in our Four Horsemen of the Counter-Apocalypse.
Ah, yes.
Doesn't end in S, but still, nice try.
And Ian McEwan gets main credit for your book, actually, doesn't he?
He does, yes. It's the I dedicated it to him because over the years he's been a tremendous ally in the sense of someone with whom one can carry on a really intelligent conversation.
As you say, he helps you understand the difference between the numinous and the...
Yes. A lot of people say, well, atheism is rather arid after all. It defines itself as a negative, as something you don't believe or something you are not. And where's the magic, where's the charm in this, whereas at least religion has this magnificence and this, transcendence. And I say, well, the transcendent is fine, and the numinous is fine, and we can't do without it. We need poetry, we need architecture, we need music, we need love. But there's a big distinction between that and the supernatural. And the brilliant way that Ian registers this in his fiction, I'm sure perhaps more than usually your listeners are reading him because of atonement, is to...
Which is a very religious-sounding word.
Extremely, even if you're not from our tradition, is that he patrols that frontier between the supernatural and the numinous very well and enforces the distinction with great skill, I think.
Speaking of religion, and we will speak a good deal of religion with you, of course, this morning, but I read a piece you did about Mrs. Bhutto. First of all, can we surmise that religion is behind this? That, in other words, certainly one gets a sense at this point that Musharraf and company are trying to blame al-Qaeda. They have done so. There's some speculation, I don't think anybody really knows, that maybe the Bhutto assassination had perhaps something to do with Musharraf wanting to keep his power or consolidate his power?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a fan of the generals, but I can't see any way in which he could be glad this has happened. It's a disaster for him. If a candidate in an election is murdered in the headquarters of the Pakistani military, the garrison town, Rawalpindi, it's partly a challenge to Musharraf. These are people trying to show you don't run this place. You know, it is a direct affront to his power, to his authority, and he must be feeling it. And he can't want the streets of Rawalpindi and Karachi and Islamabad to be on fire, which is a prediction anyone could have made. No, the people who most wanted her dead, most needed her dead, most announced that they would kill her, and were identified by her as the ones who she thought would do it, are the Islamic extremists.
So nobody
call them Al-Qaeda if you like.
No, from that group, and the government has not allowed them to exhume her body. Why do you suppose that?
By the way, claiming credit is a grotesque way of putting it, isn't it? When you think about it.
Well,
we say that.
Yeah, it's appropriate though for what they want in terms of.
I suppose yes. They haven't boasted of it. They haven't bragged of it. And there's nothing to say that it wasn't a lone nutcase. Yeah. But if it was a lone nutcase, it would have been a lone religious nutcase, is I guess what I'm saying.
Any thoughts as why the government won't allow an autopsy?
No, unless that too is a sop to the Islamists, because the tradition in Islam is that the body is buried as soon as can possibly be. And there's always been a difficulty with the autopsy in this case. It does seem bizarre. Have you seen the video? The most recent one? No. You can't really tell from it whether the claim that the fatal injury was in fact a a fractured skull from banging her head, rather than from the shrapnel or the bullets. One can't tell whether that claim is vindicated or not, nor whether it would make any difference.
We know nothing about the son, who's being named now as a possible successor. They want to go ahead with the election, her party said, on January 8th. And the fact of the matter is he's 19 years old. He has really no experience.
No, this is in the worst tradition of subcontinental personality and populist politics. I mean, the Pakistan People's Party, PPP, has always been a private fiefdom of the Bhutto family. It's never really had an internal election of any kind. It's never chosen a leader. It's just a vehicle for the Bhuttos. But it is rather grotesque that this completely untried, literally unheard of 19-year-old is stepping forward. I noticed his first remark was his mother used to say democracy is the best revenge. Well, in that case, this isn't a good revenge because it's not democratic.
Talking again with Christopher Hitchens. I read a piece you did in Slate about Mrs. Bhutto, and you talked about her bravery, her physical courage particularly. You also said she has the largest electric complex of any female politician in modern history, which I think is probably quite accurate. But and I liked and admired her. I'd interviewed her a number of times. She had charm. She had a kind of brilliance and wit.
Yes, she was quite captivating. I remember when I used to know her slightly, and she had me to speak at the Oxford Union when she was president there, and was rather bewitching. And then I drove around with her alone the night she became prime minister, the night she won the election in November 1988. And I was absolutely astounded by how brave she was, just without a bodyguard, in a jeep, with only me, driving through these slums of Karachi where anything can happen. It's one of the most dangerous cities in the world. And she would stop the truck and poke up through the sunroof, standing on the seat, just exactly as she did last week in Rawalpindi, with a bullhorn, and just address the people, who were very enthusiastic, I must say, but among whom there could have been lurking any number of goons.
Where's the line between bravery and recklessness?
Well, that's the thing. You see, I think there was an element of, when I came to reconsider it, and after I'd interviewed her a few times, there was an element of fanaticism in her courage. It was all to do with ambition, which was enormous in her case, and the electoral complex that you mentioned. I mean, if ever I've met someone whose heart belongs to Daddy, it was her. Her father had been cruelly executed by General Zia, it's true, but I mean, she lived to vindicate her father. She absolutely worshipped him. Nothing he ever did could have been wrong. This is the man who said, the people of Pakistan will eat grass rather than give up their desire for a nuclear weapon.
It was prescient in some ways, wasn't it?
Yes, because they've now got a nuke and a lot of them are eating grass, so he was dead right about that. She lied to me very directly about the intentions of Pakistan's nuclear program. I could tell she was lying too. I didn't know then what it was all in the future, but she would become Pakistan's patron of the Taliban in Afghanistan next. Well, the Russians were still in Afghanistan at the time I'm talking about. So the Taliban was in the future, but she did play a mean game with them, which didn't get pointed out enough last week. But I think she learned from that experience.
The electric complex didn't extend to the husband?
No. I mean, the husband was arranged for her. Was found she passively let her family pick this playboy as husband. Rather odd for someone who was so ostensibly, not exactly feminist, but emancipated. I mean, she would wear a scarf, but she never covered her face, and she was very forward and very fashionable. She let them just
on radio. She didn't have a scarf.
She just let them pick a scarf made for radio. Yes, she just let them pick a husband for her. I think partly because he was from the province of Sindh, which is where she's from, which incidentally is very important because much of Pakistan's elite, especially including its army, is from the Punjab. Is Punjabi. Pakistan is a state dominated by one province. And the fact that she is from the second largest province, Sindh, and has a power base there too, plus some appeal in Punjab, is politically something you have to understand if you want to know how Pakistan functions.
Talking again with Christopher Hitchens, she was, when it came to corruption charges and those things thrown at her, she did get, as you pointed out in the Slate article, self-righteous and kind of hauteurish.
Yes, she did. And I suppose it's completely possible she thought all that was beneath her. I mean, she had, by the time she got to Oxford, people would joke, because she'd never had to open a door, or probably even open a car door, or pull a curtain, or even get the top off a bottle. I mean, everything had always been done for her. The very adoring Daddy again.